Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eileen Brewer, and I'm the director at the Takween Accelerator. Today, we're actually going to talk about the startup life cycle. So this session will be recorded and it will be live streamed to our Facebook page, and the recording will also be available on our YouTube channel. So let's get started. The reason why I put this presentation together today is because there's a lot of confusion about what a startup is and how they get money. And oftentimes people with an idea will go around and ask for people to give them money. I have an idea, give me some money. So this is a naive, but it's normal in early startup ecosystems like what we have in Iraq. So because nobody has provided any education on what the entire process is like and what really happens. So oftentimes we hear about millions of dollars being invested in a startup. You've all heard about Lezo and Mijwa. They received these large checks of investment, but you never hear about how they got there or what was the process for them to get there. So this is going to explain the background of what happens if your goal is to be one of those who receive those large checks. But there's a surprise at the end of the presentation about maybe that check isn't the best thing after all. So let's learn. So the first thing that you should do if you want to have a startup is find a problem to solve. The problem you want to solve should be a very, very big problem, and lots of people experience it. Oftentimes, it's replacing old methods, especially when you're looking at regions like in the MENA region or in Africa or parts of Asia, where they don't have the latest technology, but you all are learning really strong tech skills. So look at everything that's being done by paper and see how can I digitalize that. There's a great opportunity to build businesses in digitalizing old processes. And there's another idea you can look at is limited reach. If there are certain things that can only be sold in a small area because no technology is being applied to that, how can you add technology to expand the reach of a product? Or out of date content or concepts. So imagine a farmer being able to see all his crops on a dashboard on his laptop, and he can see the temperature, whether it's too wet or too dry. He can manage his crops from a desktop, and he knows where to focus his time. Or imagine converting the educational system to a more digitalized or more current concepts where we're teaching kids to be problem solvers instead of just memorization. So and you can go into agriculture, ed, fintech, just many, many places, medical, to find new problems that need to be solved. Once you come up with your idea of a problem you want to solve, oftentimes we should look at finding a co-founder, because you have some really strong skills, but often you don't have all the skills that are needed. So you may have very strong technical skills, but not business skills. Or maybe you have business skills, but you don't have technical skills. So instead of depending on having to pay someone else to do all of these services, you can search for a co-founder. So get honest with yourself and list what your skills are, and then list what your gaps are. What are you missing? What do you need? And then look for co-founders who have those skills, so the two of you together can bring all the skills needed to the business. Dynamic equity sharing is a way to track you receive equity or money back from the business based on the contributions you put in. So you don't want to go up to someone and say, hey, will you be my chief technology officer and I'll give you 30% of the business. That's like giving somebody a whole year of salary before they've done anything. So instead, you invite them to be a co-founder with you. Sometimes they don't even have to have a co-founder title. You can just say, I would like you to join my startup. You can be an engineer or full stack engineer, or maybe someone with an MBA, and say, I have no money yet, but we will keep track of all the hours of contribution that you give to the business. And then based on the amount of time you put in, you start increasing the amount of equity you're allowed to have in the business. And then when the business has generated money and revenue, then those who have been contributing start receiving some funding back. So now that you have a problem you want to solve, and you have both business and technology-based startup founders, you want to oftentimes go to an incubator or a makerspace. And the reason I recommend this is because it's good to get into an environment of like-minded people, so that everyone around you is trying to build new products, so that you remove some of the negativity from the community of them telling you, no, you should just go be a pharmacist, or no, you should just get married. So this is a way to remove that noise and put yourself in a supportive space. While you're in these spaces, you get an opportunity to training, so you can increase your business acumen. You can increase your network of like-minded people. You can learn about what Lean Canvas is and learn about how to apply design thinking to the solution that you're trying to build. Now, the next thing you would like to do is market research. So before you spend any money or any hours developing a solution, you need to go ask your target users if they want it. And market research is critical that you do it the correct way. So if you think that there are not enough blue shoes in the market, your market research does not include asking people, will you buy blue shoes, yes or no? What you do is you ask them open-ended questions. Can you find shoes that you like? What type of shoes do you like? How often do you buy shoes? So you're learning what their problems are. Like, is it easy for them to find all the shoes they like? Or do they only buy one pair of shoe a year? So you need to learn about what the market wants. And the way you find out what the market wants is to ask open-ended questions, not specific to, I have this solution. Do you like my solution? So you leave that question off, and then you think of, ask them about, so you can learn what their problem is, because you think you have the problem, but you ask them, and then they oftentimes will give you great ideas on how to improve the solution that you were going to build, and you haven't spent any money yet. You've just done some research. So the biggest problem is many people will build the solution before they do market research. And what happens is you become very attached, and you don't want to change your solution, and you don't want to ask customers what they want. So this will increase your failure rate. Out of the top 20 reasons about why startups fail, 42% of the time, it's because there's no market need. No one wants to buy the solution that was created because the founders did not go ask the users what their problems were and what they wanted. So make sure that you do the market research at this point. And still, you've spent no money already. You've done all this work and you're still not spending any money. Now, okay, sorry, here's the problem. Here's what we talked about, getting a big problems to solve. Find a co-founder, go to an incubator, do more market research. Now you're ready to start building a product. So now you can work on building a prototype, or what we often call minimal viable product. So a minimal viable product means it's the least amount of what you can make to start showing it to people and start getting feedback. So if you want to build something, you want to build the least amount of it as possible, get feedback. Maybe you have a mobile app and you want to put 10 features in. Just build 1 or 2 features and get some feedback, and then build the next feature and then get feedback. Once you have something like this tangible, whether or not it's a new medical device or maybe it's some new farming equipment, you can start looking for grants. And then once you receive a grant, you can develop more and you can start selling your product. So the grant helps you build more products, and then you can take them to market and you can start selling them for revenue. Grants are not loans and they are not investments. Grants is what we call free money. So you don't have to pay anyone back and you don't have to give any of your equity away. So many nonprofits and government agencies offer grants. So you can do some research on that and find some grants that may be available. And then you build your product and you start having sales, you start having revenue, and you learn how to develop your sales pitch so that you're mentioning what your value proposition is. If there are 5 different businesses selling the same product, you need to differentiate what is the value of yours versus the others. And then you go continue to work with the incubator or come into an accelerator and learn about what a sales pipeline is, and then build up your sales pipeline, get stronger business acumen skills, increase your network even more, because the accelerator like Takween we will introduce you to mentors and trainers and investors so that you can increase your network. You really need to understand business finance. Even if your co-founder is the person that's taking care of finance, it's critical that you understand it so that everything is always full transparency and you understand the transactions that are happening. And then you also learn how to pitch to investors so that you can entice them to want to invest in your business, and learn how to build an investor pipeline. So a sales pipeline is, here are all the potential people or businesses that I can sell my product to. Maybe you have a new educational product. So your sales pipeline would start out as all educational institutions in your country or in your region or in the language that you're providing. And then you start filtering that down to who have I contacted? Who has said, yes, they would like a meeting? Who have I done a demo with? Who have made a commitment to purchase? So this is like a pipeline that you're tracking everybody. You do the same thing with investors, because you don't want to spend your time trying to pitch to investors that never invest in the market you're in. So if you're doing ed tech and they only invest in fintech, you would not put them in your pipeline. You would only put the investors that you know have experience investing or interest in your sector into your investor pipeline. And then you work them just like you work sales, and you reach out to them, or you send them some parts of your deck, or you do a little video, or you try to get calls. It's the same process. At this point, you're ready for angel investors. So you have your product, it's stable, you have customers who are buying it, and you can show that you're showing growth, good growth, month over month growth. Angel investors invest in approximately 3 to 6% of those startups that they meet. So you need to get used to and comfortable with the idea that you will pitch your idea or your business at least 100 times. And you can ask any entrepreneur that has a startup business how many times they've pitched. And those who have received investment will tell you they probably pitched between 40 and 60 times before they got their very first investment. And then maybe not quite so many times to get the second investment. So as you start getting investments, the amount of times you have to pitch for the next investment goes down, because now you have some credibility. You're building up reputation and other investors are investing in you. So I might be more willing because they went first. So if I watch 100 pitches, I might invest in maybe 3 to 6% of those. And that's a standard across the globe. And it's the same for angel investors and venture capitals. So if you're talking to 2 investors, it's not going to be enough. You need to have about 100 on your pipeline or more, and then work your way through those to get maybe 3 to 6 investments. So it's a lot of work. It is not easy. So what we hear about are these great big news announcements about these big checks that came in, and everybody thinks that's it. That's all I have to do. I just have to go ask people. I have an idea. Will you invest in me? But it's not. It's this long, hard, dedicated process. And the entire time, you need to keep really good records, especially when you start to manage money, your revenue, the cost of the goods being sold, investments or loans. You have to have excellent record keeping for all of that. If you don't have good records, venture capitalist investors will not invest. So now you're at that point and you're super excited because you made the news and it's your turn, and you receive $5 million from a venture capital firm to grow your business. So what happens with that money is you go out and you hire some more staff, and you move into a bigger office space, and you pay for some more marketing, and you might even have to pay back some early loans. You may have taken a bank loan and it may be due now, so you might have to pay a bank loan. So you're spending that money on the business. You're not spending the money on your salary. Very rare will ventures allow you to spend money on your salary. They expect that that is coming from the revenue that you are generating from the business. You're not buying a new home, you're not buying a new car, you're not buying new clothes. All this money is 100% in the business only. If it's not spent on the business, it's spent inappropriately, and you can get into a lot of trouble. So now what happens is what we call the exit. You have to exit the business. If you want investors, they want you to exit. So this means that if you want to keep your startup business forever, or if you want to keep it in the family, or you want to pass it down to your children, you're never going to sell the business. And if you're not going to sell the business, you don't want outside investors, because angel investors and venture capital investors expect you to sell the business. And there's 2 ways to sell the business. One is that you go public on a public stock exchange where everybody can buy into the business. You no longer own it. Everybody who wants to buy stock owns it. Or it gets sold to somebody else. So typically a larger business in the same market segment as you buys your business. And that can also be called mergers and acquisitions. So what happens is you either go public or you get sold to someone else, and then even more money comes in. So maybe you had $5 million in investment, but your business was worth now $100 million, and you sold the business. So now you have $100 million coming in, but you need to pay everybody back. So every single time that you ask for somebody to invest in your business, you have to pay them back. And you cannot pay them just the amount they gave you. They expect you to give them much more. So if I invest 100,000, that money goes into shares. So you don't pay me $100,000 back. You pay me whatever you agreed on in the contract. So for this example, let's say I gave you 100,000 and then you gave me 10% equity. So when you sell the business for let's say 100 million, I get 10% of 100 million. Not just that 100,000 that I gave you 3 years ago. So the money that gets invested gets converted into shares, and then that amount of shares gets taken when the business is sold. So you have all this money coming in, but you have to give it all out, right? So you may have some loans that you have to pay off. You may need to pay off some of the venture capital investors from your Series A round. You may need to pay off angel investors, and you may need to pay off some employees because you gave them stock options. So all of that money gets dispersed, and how much you get individually depends on how well you managed what we call a cap table. A cap table is the capital, who owns the business. So it's a breaking down by percent of who owns the business. So that, just like I said, if I put in $100,000 and that we agreed that that will equal 10% of the business, then I would be on this line with the numbers of shares would be 10% of whatever the total valuation was of the business. So if the business was $100 million, then my number of shares would be converted here. And you can see what percent each one of your investors gets and what that equates to in shares, depending on the valuation. And then when it's sold, how much each one of them get back. So it's important to be very diligent about not giving away too much equity in your business when you're looking for investors. In really young ecosystems, like in Iraq and Kurdistan, there's a term that's used all over the world, and it's called predatory behavior, predatory investors. And they look for people who don't have a lot of experience, and they will offer you $100,000 for 40% of your business. And you're desperate and you don't care, and that sounds fair to you, and you say yes. No venture capital will invest in your business if you hold less than 51% of your business. So you must always be number one on the chart that you're owning 51% of the business, which gives you 49% to give to investors. And if you gave 40% away to the very first $100,000 investment, you have nothing to offer all the other additional investors who come later. But that one investor is really happy and will push you really, really hard to grow the business fast and sell it so that they can make that money and move on. But for you, it's a bad deal. So I'll give you one rough idea. Y Combinator's very big. A lot of people know who Y Combinator is. Their terms are, if you get accepted into Y Combinator, they will invest $125 US in exchange for 7% equity. So kind of use that as your baseline, as your gauge, because they're big and very reputable, and you should be able to compare that when other people are trying to invest in your business. But what I want to really talk about, the surprise at the end, is this. So let's talk about the news. Intuit confirmed yesterday that they are going to buy MailChimp for $12 billion. This is amazing. This is a huge, huge. If you look at the MailChimp cap table, you know what's on it? 2 founders and some employee bonuses. That's it. They never took any outside investments at all, ever. And they ran the business for 21 years. They never took investment. So the cap table is there's going to give employee bonuses, and then the 2 founders are going to split the balance. They're walking away with over $4 billion each because they didn't accept investments. So the reason why I bring this up is because oftentimes people think, I'm successful because I got investors. I'm successful because this VC invested in me, or this angel group invested in me. The truth is, you will be even more successful if you can grow your business without ever having to take a single investor. So the goal is to build a product that can grow fast, that brings revenue in fast, so that you have your own revenue to put back into the business. So you can use your own revenue to hire more employees, get a bigger office, pay some bonuses, use your own revenue, grow, and then sell the business. You don't have to share that money with anyone. It is not, success is not about how much VC money you got in, but that's what people think it is. And it's all over the news all the time. So we always think, oh, that I need that. I need to be a unicorn. I need to go get all that VC money. But the truth is, the ones that are really successful are like these, like MailChimp, and they don't happen very often. But this is the true success story when you have no investors or very few investors. So how do we improve the startup ecosystem here in Kurdistan and Iraq? Find big problems to solve, be very, very innovative and disruptive with the solutions that you come up with. Do not do the exact same thing that everybody else does. We already have many food delivery apps now. Let's focus on something else. Let's focus on some temperature sensors that could be put out in the crops, or temperature sensors that could be put on crates of food that are in transit, so that if I am sending my tomatoes to somewhere, I know exactly how cool or warm that truck is the entire time that truck, my food and my product is in transit. Right? There's lots of opportunities for you here. Maybe better improved water filtration systems, maybe more solar power, maybe finding ways that we can do some solar on the buildings. It doesn't have to be on the roof. Maybe it's paint on the walls. Maybe it's on the roads. There's all kinds of solar absorbing types of materials being made, and you're a perfect country to bring that technology into the country. Support more incubators and maker spaces. Introduce more entrepreneurship courses in schools, not just university, but also in all grade levels. Start teaching entrepreneurship, problem solving, critical thinking, team building. Become a mentor or a trainer. Become an angel investor so that you can invest in those around you. And support and believe in the big thinkers. There are lots and lots of youth here that are working very, very hard to build solutions, but they need the support around them. So do not criticize anyone who is talking about any type of innovation or solution or idea. When we criticize them, we're saying we like the status quo. We don't want anything to change. I don't believe in you. And what we should be saying is, I am so proud of you for coming up with ideas. I cannot wait to see your MVP or your prototype. Please let me know if you would like me to help you with your market research, right? Provide contributions and positive feedback to those in your community who want to be problem solvers. This way, we create a very supportive ecosystem, and the whole country together can grow and be successful and improve the private sector, which will help everyone around us. And that's it. That's all I have. So I'll see if we have any questions that have come up in the chat. If so, let me know. You can put them in the Q&A box. Shahrazad, do we have any questions?
Oh, no, we don't have any questions till now.
Okay, great. All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the presentation. If there's no questions, like I mentioned, this is a live feed on Facebook. You can also post questions there. We usually track the comments for a few days to see if any questions come in and we answer them. You can also send us a message on Facebook or any of our social media platforms. This recording will also be stored on our YouTube channel if you would like. So I hope all of you are thinking about wonderful problems that you can solve and some beautiful solutions. What are the best practices in headhunting and finding team members? What I would recommend is talk to the top tier universities and find out who is responsible for staying in touch with the alum network. Every single university has some kind of an alum newsletter, and the person who's responsible for having activities for the alum. Oftentimes they can do postings for you, and you don't even have to have a job opening, right? You could just say, I would like to talk to, 10 engineers, and you can go through those networks to find some. You can also go to LinkedIn, and I really recommend all of you improving your LinkedIn profiles, making them very stellar and interesting and engaging, and start reaching out. If you want to hire a full stack engineer or developer, then just type in full stack developer in LinkedIn. If you want them to be local, then change the setting to Iraq, and then just see all these people who have that background or that experience. Or if you want somebody to be a HR director, type in HR director, select people, select Iraq, and you can see. And then you can just start connecting with them on LinkedIn and start building your network. And if you want to ask them questions, they're available. Most of the time, people will answer questions. If you have jobs, then you can reach out to them and let them know that you have some positions. And difficult for startups. And let's see. Interns, or is it difficult for startups to manage? I would be very careful about how many interns you bring in. If it's your 2 or 3 founders and you're working really, really hard, you don't want to bring in 6 interns. So you don't want to bring in more interns than you have of managers. So as a manager, I would not even try to manage more than 2 interns myself. And you need to be very clear about what you're going to give them to do. And then you show them what you want them to do, and then they go and do it. And then you check it, and pretty soon they're running on their own. So it really depends if they're doing development or they're doing social media and how strong their skills are. Thank you, Abdu. Anyone else? Okay, let me check there. What do you think about, that we have that one, how to build a good team when you can't pay salary? So this goes back to dynamic equity sharing. So I recommend that you research what's called slicing the pie, dynamic equity sharing. And then you ask people if they're willing to do work for you in exchange for equity in the business based on how much they contribute. So many people in the United States, the engineers will work part-time. So they have a full-time paying job, and then over here they support a startup. So maybe at night they work 4 hours a night for free for a startup, with the hopes that the startup will do well, and then eventually they'll start receiving equity and a salary. So it's finding those who have an entrepreneurship mindset, who understand the concept and are willing to work in trade for some equity, completely understanding that the business may not be successful and that you may not pay them unless the business is successful. If you want to start an app, what are the phases we should expect to go through? So the same thing. So Abdu, what I would do is storyboard. So just start getting some pieces of paper and just start drawing it and saying, this is what the homepage looks like. And then do the different, when I click on this, I go to this. And when I click on this, I go to this. And it's just paper. It's just you with some markers and with paper. And you have to we call that the wireframe. And then you can give the wireframe to a developer to build a prototype for you. Do we need to hire people to do market research, or we can do it ourselves? You can do it yourselves if you do the research and you do it correctly. The best and free way to do this is to Google on Design Thinking Stanford D School. Design Thinking, Stanford D School, D as in design, does Stanford D School. They have a PDF that's free. Abdu, I actually know personally, I know him. So if you reach out to me, I can send you that document. And there's a whole section on how to do proper market research. So if you're willing to take the time and educate yourself and do it correctly, then definitely keep the money and do the market research yourself. But if you have funds available and you don't have the time, then you can pay others to do market research for you. And I actually have a contact here in Iraq that they do market research, and I can introduce you to her as well. Having one project also have more revenue monthly, we can't said it's in the group of accelerators because just use social media for that work and get revenue. I'm going to ask if what you mean is you cannot go into the accelerator because the technology you're using is social media. Maybe go ahead and type your question in Kurdish or Arabic. We have both Kurdish and Arabic speakers. So if you could, Ikhlas, if you could re-enter your question in Kurdish or Arabic, then one of my others can help me and then I can answer you. Do we have any other questions? While we're waiting to see whether or not that question will come back in, I'll tell you a little bit about Takween. So Takween is an accelerator, and we have incubators in the country. So in my presentation, I talked about approaching incubators first and then going to accelerator. So incubators help you incubate your idea and turn your idea into a business. And then accelerators help you accelerate businesses. So Takween is an accelerator. So we don't work with people at the idea stage. We work with startups that have a product and have some revenue. Then you're ready to look at accelerators. But we focus very much on tech-enabled startups. So we want to work with startups that are using technology as part of the product or solution is original technical coding. So it's not an e-commerce site reselling imported goods, and it's not a digital marketing agency that is doing social media for other businesses. It is you are developing software or hardware or a product that is using technology. Okay, can you translate it? Have a couple people looking at it.
Abdulrahman asked another question.
Maybe I lost, but I think we only spoke about the exit scenario. How will things go if you wanted to keep the startup, not selling it off? If you want to keep your startup and not sell it, then you do not want investors. Investors only invest because they expect to make 10 to 30 times their investment amount back from you in about 5 to 7 years. If you never want to sell your business, you do not want investors. You may want some loans and you may want some partners, but you do not want investors. Investors only invest because they're trying to make really big returns. So if I invest $100,000 in your business today, I expect you to give me 1.5 million back in 3 to 5 years. So I don't want just my 100,000 back. I want 10 or 15 or 20 times my 100,000 back. And you have about 3 to 5 years to do that. You don't see the question? Oh, because it just comes to panelists only. So do you see it?
Oh, yes.
Sorry, we'll get there.
There is another question asked by Abdul.
Do you got another one for me? Or did I miss one? I don't think I've missed any questions. I think we got them all. I think we just need the one translated. Did you send it to Sarah? Did you send it to Abdu?
Yes,
You sent it to Abdu?
there is one. He says if we want to start a completely new product within the same area we work in now, should we consider going to an incubator?
Sure. An incubator is a great place to go when you're at idea phase. And if you have a new product within the same area that you work, a lot of people come up with ideas this way because they're working every day in a certain field and they see this can be done better. I have an idea. I have a solution to what's around me or the industry that I'm in. Going to an incubator is the perfect next step. Yes. Or you can also start doing research and learn how to do high quality market research and do some of your own if you don't have time, or if it's too difficult to go into an incubator, then you can start doing self-teaching. But definitely always do the market research before you start building the solution. And do high quality market research by understanding what good questions are. Oh, he said it's in Kurdish. Huh. Oh, I'm sorry. We're having a hard time understanding the question. Maybe if you can post it in the Facebook thread, we'll keep working on it there. Bakshkan.t said that they can help. So maybe can you send it to them? All right. We're going to copy and paste it over to one more person who may be able to help us. Sorry, we're usually able to figure them out, but how many strains of Kurdish do you have? Give us your questions. We're happy to try to help you. Anyone. Okay, we have someone else looking at the question for us. We might be able to get it translated here. What will happen when you invite investors to a business, but after a few years you fail or business goes down? Is that effect on you? So what happens is investors know that many startups fail. So you do not have to pay them back, but you must have really good contracts. So make sure that anytime you're signing a contract with an investor, you pay the legal fee to have a lawyer look at it. It should state that if the business fails, you're not obligated to pay anyone back. So if I invest 100,000 and 3 years from now, you say the business is over, it's gone, then you don't have to pay me that 100,000 back. But there will be due diligence to ensure that you put forth all that money into the business and you tried to grow the business. If you were fraudulent and you spent the money on yourself and you did not work on the business, then there is a legal course that I can take. Okay, Takween doesn't accept a startup that only exists on social media platforms as a legitimate startup. No, that's not correct. We have, it depends what the business is. If the business, when you say existing on social media, I'm not quite sure what that means. So is the business creating social media posts for other businesses? Is the business a new medical device that's using social media to advertise its business? So I'm happy to have the discussion to help explain it more, but I think that we've done enough here to try to work on that. Thank you very much for your help, Bakshin, in translating that for us. I don't think there's any other questions now, so I encourage all of you to go out and think about big problems that need solved. Make sure you solve them with very innovative technology, because innovative technology will get the attention of investors if you want investors, and technology will help you grow the business really fast so that you can bring the revenue in and keep growing the business. So good luck to all of you and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.